All right, UCF fans, we're in the home stretch. We're in the late part of November, second to last game on the schedule, and a trip to Morgantown, where it's going to be quite cold, I imagine, that time of year. And for that, we welcome in Kevin Kinder. He's the publisher of BlueGoldNews.com, covering West Virginia University, the Mountaineers. Kevin, how are you?
Doing great, Chris. Great to be on here. Mountaineers had a good trip down to UCF last year. Really competitive, good game. Looking forward to another one this year.
I will say that was an impressive road fan group. They brought everyone. That was a lot of blue and yellow at the Bounce House last year. Probably the best road traveling fans that I encountered in my year covering the team. So is that kind of typical? Is this a team that travels well and that kind of follows its Mountaineers wherever they go?
It is. It's kind of a common thing that WVU is the state's pro team. Obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers are close by. There's a couple other pro teams in Ohio close by, but this is the big, draw for sports fans and football fans. And West Virginia's always had that reputation, always traveled well to bowl games, and it's been kind of starved for good locations to get to. Over the past few years, being in the Big 12, those are obviously bigger trips. So having UCF in, having Cincinnati in, I think you're going to see a continuation that see more Mountaineer fans on the road.
I imagine this conversation would have been different this time a year ago. Last year, they were picked dead last in the Big 12. Neil Brown was obviously dissatisfied with that, and they won 9 games, and he got a bath of mayonnaise at the end of the season for trouble. What is the motivation and this time around? What are they kind of rallying around, and what's maybe different with the mood around the program?
Continuing growth. Obviously, there's some optimism that built off of last year. Had a really good season. Won a couple close games that could have gone either way. I think that's probably true for most teams, when you're going back and analyzing. And didn't have the toughest league schedule, but still had some impressive wins. I mean, as you mentioned, I counted, winning at UCF was good because the environment there is really good. Obviously, the excitement was really high there. So, that was a good win for the Mountaineers. This year, it's continuing that. Could they get to 10 wins? That's the push. Building that culture. West Virginia has always been a program that has been based on improvement. They're going to get some players in the portal, but developing players, continuing that. Those are the items that they want to keep going with. And there's definitely optimism around the program.
Yeah, let's kind of stick with the schedule real quick, right? I mean, the familiarity has got to be a plus, I would imagine, for them. They play Penn State to open the year at home. They played them last year, and they played them tough. They get Pittsburgh again, their biggest rival, in the backyard brawl. They'll go across the state lines this time. They don't play anybody new out of the Big 12 aside from Arizona, so that's they don't have to face a lot of the newcomers. Do you feel like this kind of shapes up to help them? The fact that they've got a lot of teams that they'll be familiar with. They get Iowa State and a few of the other teams at home as well.
It is a good schedule, I think, for West Virginia. The league has always been cognizant of West Virginia's travel, extended travel that it has to do. So it doesn't typically give them back-to-back road games, which is really good. To me, that stretch in there, Kansas, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Kansas State, that's the real key one. Get off to a good start. You never know. Penn State is obviously a tall task, but get the next 2, get ready, get into October. Going through that stretch is going to be really important, and that can set them up well for a strong finish to the season, but they've got to do well in those middle tier games.
Yeah, I think that opener is going to be really something. I think from not just from the environment, obviously, but I think, kind of a tone setter. And Gus Malzahn mentioned it at Big 12 Media Days. The Big 12 is kind of seen as that 3rd, maybe 4th league right now in terms of prestige. So if you have a team go in there and beat Penn State right out of the gate, it's only going to help the league as a whole in terms of trying to get more playoff spots by the time December rolls around. West Virginia, like UCF last year, top 5 team in the nation running the football, and they did it in waves. When they run the ball well and they run it for over 200 yards, they're almost unbeatable, it seems. So tell us kind of about the 3-headed monster, Garrett Green, the quarterback, C.J. Donaldson, Jaheim White, what each of those guys brings to the table and why this offense has been so tough to stop on the ground.
I think it's in large part because they're different styles of runner. C.J. Donaldson is a power back. He can pop through a hole and get out in the secondary, but when you do that, you know better bring a load to bring him down. Really strong runner. Jaheim White, great moves, electric in the open field. Popped several long runs, so you kind of merge those two together, and it's tough for defenses to focus in on saying, hey, we're going to stack the line or we're going to try to react and just fill gaps and see, how you could stop it that way. Then Garrett Green's kind of the wild card. He's a playmaker. He's not a guy that, even though he's trying to improve and working on improving a bunch on his accuracy, he's a guy that can make plays behind the line of scrimmage, make a guy miss, and all of a sudden he pops out of there, gets out of the pocket, draws defenders, flips the ball, definitely a creator. So when you put all those things together, it's just been a really dynamic rushing attack, and coupled with what was a great offensive line last year that they're hoping to reload a bit this year. There's optimism for the running game again.
Yeah, they lost Zach Frazier, their starting center. Obviously, was drafted into the NFL not too far from West Virginia, if I recall. He's a Pittsburgh Steeler, if I'm not mistaken. So, but Wyatt Milam, I think people need to realize this is a really good lineman, really good left tackle prospect for West Virginia. Certainly one of their key players. Moving on to the passing game. It's obviously not West Virginia's strength. They don't have to necessarily rely on it a lot, but how do you think they can maybe unlock and get more out of it? Whether it's just improving accuracy for Garrett Green, who completed 53% of his passes, to what they brought in. What do you think are kind of the main things they want to focus on to get more out of that part of the game?
Yeah, Garrett Green himself and the quarterback's coach, Tyler Allen, have not been shy about saying, hey, this is a place where we have to get better. And what they talk about is consistency in mechanics, footwork, drop consistency, all the things that you don't really first think about when you're talking about the passing game, but that those have affected some of his throws. And kind of strangely enough, Garrett Green has been pretty good on deep balls. It's the short and mid-range throws that have either been off target a little bit or been tougher catches that have prevented those from going for some bigger gains or, more consistent gains. So that's where they're really looking to improve. Make the connections on this quickly, make those routine plays, spread defenses out a little bit, obviously, so they don't have to, so they can't jam up so much against the running game. He's been working about that, has not been shy about saying it all summer. That's what I've been doing. He's gone to 2 different prestigious passing academies, and we're going to see what the result is, but that's the goal. And like you said, they can get that up above 60%, maybe in the mid-60s range even. Offense could be really good.
Cole Taylor, the tight end, the leading receiver, coming back in terms of receptions. He had 35 last year for West Virginia. One thing they did excel at, though, was being disruptive. They had 33 sacks defensively. They had 84 tackles for loss, which the 33 sacks was the highest total in the Big 12 a year ago. They were both in the top 30 nationally, if I'm not mistaken. So give us kind of a sense of what about the scheme or the talent level that they have? What made them so tough to slow down and get into opponents' backfields last year? And can that continue this coming season?
Last year, they were really deep on the defensive line. They could roll legitimate 3 deep in. And while there might have been a little bit of a drop off, didn't get fatigued, 1 or 2 injuries, a guy missing a game or 2 didn't affect them a whole lot. So they were able to bring pressure, attack the whole game. This year, the defensive line is not quite as deep, but the improvements look like a good increase on speed at linebacker. Think they're going to cover better, think they can blitz better from the second level well. And although, as you mentioned, they did really well in sacking the quarterback, they said they want to improve just on getting pressure, affecting the throws, getting the quarterback off the spot, getting him out of the pocket. So that's their goals for this year. They've got to improve some in the secondary, brought in a number of transfers. It's always hit or miss on how that's well, but they've done pretty well in the transfer portal the past couple of years. So if they can put all those pieces together, again, that's a big ask for everything to happen. But that's the plan for them to be able to continue the pressure game that they have, still be able to affect opposing offenses.
And it seems like the easiest way to help out a reshaped secondary is to go ahead and get after the quarterback, just the way they did last year. let's kind of get a prediction. I know it's way in advance. We're shooting this in mid-July, but I have asked every writer so far, so we got to keep it consistent. We're in mid-July recording this. The game's not until mid-November. But what do you think? What's kind of your initial gut reaction when UCF and West Virginia play?
I kind of expect a game like it is last year. You always at a little bit of a disadvantage. What's UCF's transfers look like? How do they evolve and come in and help the team? But I think it's going to be another really competitive game in a lot of ways. The teams are kind of the same. They're kind of Iowa State-like. They can both build, trying to build programs, build that solid foundation, then bring in some new players. I think West Virginia can move the ball on UCF. To me, the key is how much can West Virginia's defense affect UCF's offense. I was impressed with their skill players last year. Obviously, they had a lot of guys that could move the ball up and down the field. So I think that's where the key lies. If I had to pick, I would give West Virginia a slight edge being at home. Obviously, the colder weather, the better for the Mountaineers. So if we get a 20-degree day, it'd be great. But you're just as likely in Morgantown to get a 50, 55-degree day. So that always comes in the equation. I'd give West Virginia a little bit of an edge, but I think it's going to be a really good game.
Let me tell you, 50, 55 degrees is almost the heart of the winter down here in Orlando. So I assure you that's going to feel a little different for the Knights and for the traveling fans. I'm kind of with you. So West Virginia's 3-0 all time against UCF. Now, granted, two of those games were almost 2 decades ago at this point, and Chris Henry was a thorn in their side for quite a number of years. But I'm kind of with you. I think West Virginia, their strength was UCF's weakness last year. They could not stop the run. They were very poor against the run. They were in the bottom 10, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of the year. So if they're unable to get West Virginia out of its comfort zone, it could be one of those games where it's going to be. I think it's going to be pretty competitive. It's going to be close, but you got to get them to do something different. You got to make Garrett Green beat you through the air consistently if you want to take them down. And we'll see how UCF does on the road this coming season. It was a little bit more of a challenge last year, although I think the travel is a lot more forgiving this time around than it was a year ago. Kevin, where can fans find you on social media, and where can they find your work as well?
On Twitter, it's at Blue Gold News. And if you go to bluegoldnews.com, you can find all of our content there, photo galleries, analysis, video, everything that you guys do, that we all do in this day and age of multimedia and social media. So definitely come in, check us out, engage with us. Happy to talk football and sports anytime.
Be careful what you ask for when you have fans on Twitter. I assure you, they will find you. And of course, they'll find me at Chris Boyle DBJ, news-journalonline.com for all of our content as we get ready for the start of the season. Kevin, thanks so much for your time this morning.
Chris, thanks a lot. Appreciate the time and looking forward to this matchup.